Hello! Welcome everybody. How's it going? I'm gonna move my mic a little bit closer. How's this sound? Hello, hello. Welcome to Comfy Blaze, where we won't be screaming at the ads, because I made sure that that can't happen. How do we feel about the ambiance? Is it good match for my voice? Does it need to be turned down or turned up? Hello. Hello, everybody. Hi. Very ambient. You can hear every... I think it's... Oh, the intro music is still playing. Yeah, thank you. I almost didn't pawn that. How does it sound now? Compared to my voice. La 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 la. Finished the line drawing on my Dark Souls 3 OC. Nice. Sounds pretty good. You can hear all the different parts in it. It isn't too loud, too quiet, etc., etc. How much did you miss? We have not started yet, do not worry. I would first like to state that this is going to be a slightly shorter stream. It's only going to be about an hour long. And all tips and such will be, they will be read at the end. Just like during the karaoke. Because we wouldn't want that to interrupt our peaceful time, right? Yes, I am Megane. Yes, only an hour for today, unfortunately. This is going to be a peaceful book. Yes, this is not a this is not too sad of a book. I think it's a very cute book. So allow me to first read to you the inside blurb, just to give you an idea of what we're getting into. I may only be in 4th grade, but I know more than most adults. I take notes every day and read all kinds of books, so I have a solid grasp on the world around me. But suddenly, there are penguins in my town. I know it has something to do with the lady at the dentist and her weird powers, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Quite the blurb, huh? I watched the movie for this, and I really have been wanting to read the full novel, because I think I'll just definitely enjoy it more. I thought the movie was very quirky and nice, and yeah. I hope everyone has eaten well, perhaps maybe has something warm to drink with them. I have coffee, because I'm going to be pulling a bit of an all-nighter. I'm going to be working on a personal project. That is why today's stream is a bit short. And tomorrow, do not forget, we are going to be having our monetization celebration, and we're going to draw some emotes as well, so it'll be a fun little time, and I hope to see you guys there as well. But for now, without further ado, let us begin. This is Penguin Highway by Tomihiko Morimi. Episode 1. Seaside Cafe. I am extremely intelligent and never slack off on my studies. That's why I'll be very important in the future. I'm still only in 4th grade, but I already know all sorts of things, every bit as much as grown-ups do. You see, I always take detailed notes and I read a lot of books. I'm interested in outer space, living things, the ocean, and robots. I like history too. I love reading biographies of important people. I've made robots in my garage, and Yamaguchi at Seaside Cafe has let me look through his telescope. I haven't actually seen the ocean yet, but I'm formulating a plan to go explore it in the near future. It is important to observe things yourself. First-hand experience trumps any book knowledge. Losing to others is nothing to be ashamed of, but losing to your former self definitely is. I learn more and more about the world each and every day. I become better than I was the day before. There's still a lot of time ahead of me before I'll be a grown-up. I did the math yesterday, and there are still 3,888 days before I turn 20. By then, I'll be 3,888 days better than I am now. I can barely imagine how great that will make me. Possibly too great for this world to contain. I believe it will come as a shock to everyone. Perhaps lots of girls will ask me to marry them, but I already know who I'm going to marry, so I'll have to turn them all down. I'll feel sorry for them, but on this point, I will not budge. I live in a suburban town. There are lots of rolling hills and little houses. The farther you get from the station, the newer everything is, and you can get more cute little bright-colored houses that look like they're made of Legos. On sunny days, the entire town sparkles like it's stuffed full of sweet treats. Bus lines start at the station, spreading out through the town like capillary veins. The last stop of one bus is near my house, at the front line of the new neighborhoods growing around the station. My neighborhood is laid out in an orderly fashion, and there are still many empty lots that don't have houses built yet. When the wind blows, the grass growing on these rectangular patches sways, and whenever I see that, I feel like I'm on the savannah. But I've never seen the real version, so I can only imagine what it's like. I'd like to go explore the savannah someday. What would it be like to see actual zebras galloping across the plains? It must be a sight to behold. We moved here from a town on the other side of the prefecture line when I was 7 years and 9 months old. 4 of us, my father, my mother, my little sister, and me. At the time, there weren't many houses around yet. Seaside Cafe wasn't there yet, and neither was the shopping mall we go to on weekends. It was like the earth before the origin of life, empty and desolate. Back then, my father took the train from work, then a bus from the station, and as the bus drove, it would get darker and darker outside, which always made him anxious. When he got off the bus, he would see the lights of our house in the distance like a single building in the middle of a wasteland. He would walk toward that distant glow down roads with very few streetlights, only feeling safe when he heard my sister and me laughing. But now the town is much brighter. Cute homes are filling in the vacant lots, Seaside Cafe opened. It has good pastries. There's a shopping mall with lots of parking, a cram school with a good reputation, a convenience store, and a dentist where pretty ladies work. I really like the dentist because it's like visiting a space station. I have to walk past the dentist every day on the way to school. That walk takes me approximately 22 minutes. Hello everyone who is just coming in. We are reading Penguin Highway by Tomihiko Morimi. And we're on page 3, so we're not too far in. All that's happened so far is he's just describing the world around him, and that he's quite smart, and that he thinks the ladies at the dentist office are pretty. The above was just me practicing writing. I write a lot of notes every day. So many it surprises everyone. I think I write the most notes in all 4th graders in Japan. Maybe in the whole world. The other day I was in the library reading a biography of an important person named Minakata Kumagusu, and it said he took lots of notes. So maybe I don't take as many notes as he did, but I don't think there are any elementary school students like Minakata Kumagusu. This habit of mine has made me a better person and helped me pull ahead of the crowd. My father knows about this. After all, it was my father who showed me how to take notes. I'm writing this in a lined notebook with a hard red cover that my father bought for me. Whenever I fill a notebook with notes, he's always really proud. He gives me chocolate sometimes. But writing something like this, like a diary, is fairly new to me. Why did I suddenly decide to start writing like this? Well, Yesterday, I was talking to my father in the cafe, and I realized I was facing a major event in my life. It's good to record your daily discoveries, my father said. So, that's what I'm doing. I first saw the penguins in May. In my notes, it says, woke up at 6:30. Father went to work after seeing that me and my sister were awake. Sunny. Humidity, 60%. Gentle breeze. I took my sister with me and we left the house at 7:35. When it was 7:40, we met up with the local children at the park in the center of the neighborhood. The whole place is laid out like graph paper. We left the park listening to the sounds of shutters opening and dogs howling. The vending machines on the side of the road sparkled in the morning light. The wind brushed past our thighs and made the power lines thrash around. I really like this time of year. It really clears the mind. On the way to school, my sister was super chatty, saying anything that crossed her mind. I left the talking to her and read my notes as I walked. We followed the bus route toward Kamanohashi Park, then turned south at the corner with the dentist's office and walked along the lines of Zelkova trees. Seaside Cafe is across the street from the dentist. The cafe always opens early, so there were people sipping coffee, watching us through the windows. I could imagine the warmth and scent of freshly baked baguettes. It was too early for the dentist to be open. I remembered I had an appointment that afternoon, so I checked my notes. I made my own dentist appointments. There's a lady there who is always very nice to me. But she was probably still snoring away in the white apartment complex near the water tower. She likes to sleep in. I looked over my list of things to talk to her about, then added a few more. I was able to write notes while I walked, as well as read them. Then, the 6th grader in front of me made a surprised noise, and the rest of the group stopped. I was too busy looking at my notes, so I accidentally stepped on the heel of my sister's shoe. Normally, she would have yelled at me, but this time, she didn't say anything. On the road just left of the dentist was a vacant lot. Surrounded by telephone poles and concrete, this one spot had somehow remained a patch of grass all this time. A large group of children were standing in a line beside it, holding their breath. Everyone was looking at something on the other side of the lot. My sister called out to me. She had her hands clasped in front of her, and her eyes were so wide. They looked ready to fall out. A gust of wind blew past, and the grass, dampened by the morning dew, sparkled. I heard a squeaking noise. Like feet sliding across the floor of our school, in the middle of the empty lot, a number of penguins were waddling around. I had no idea why there would be penguins in our town. Not one child moved a muscle. I moved closer to observe them properly. It was important to investigate whether those were actually penguins or a breed of crow that had undergone some sort of sudden mutation that made them very short and stout. The other children simply watched. The only sounds were my feet on the grass, the wind in the power lines, and the comical noises made by the penguin-like creatures. Even as I approached, the penguins didn't run away. I had never seen real penguins up close, but these birds looked exactly like them. Their wings were flippers, and they moved around whimsically, always looking like they were about to trip and fall. Very odd creatures, like alien life forms that had come to Earth from some distant planet. There was an abandoned motorcycle lying on its side, and the penguins were standing next to it, just staring vacantly at the blue sky. Their doll-like eyes barely moved at all. Quite a bit of mud plastered their fluffy white bellies. Perhaps they'd been sliding around on their stomachs. I opened a new page in my notebook, wrote the date and time, and began to sketch them. Eventually, local grown-ups arrived and chased the children away. I wanted to investigate them further, but since being late to school wasn't an option, I reluctantly closed my notebook. I walked away with the others in my group. I glanced back over my shoulder and saw a group of grown-ups just standing there, staring at the penguins exactly like the kids had. I looked it up later and found out that they were Adelie penguins. Their scientific name was Pygosceles adelei. The book said they lived in Antarctica and the islands around it. They do not live in the suburbs. Oh my gosh, hello! Hi, Raiders. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Apollo. Thank you so much for the raid. For those of you that do not know me, I am Blaze Shinryu from AN Project's 2nd Generation Haven. I am currently just doing a little bit of book reading, being just a bit cozy, although it's a bit more chaotic around here usually. Hope you are having a nice time reading. I am having a nice time reading. Did you have a nice stream as well, Apollo? Hello. Hello, everyone. Oh, I kind of need to sneeze. I've kind of been holding back a sneeze this whole time. Welcome, welcome. It was fun. Nostalgic Rhythm Haven today. Heaven. I'm sorry. I'm such a narcissist for my own group name. I just read Heaven as Haven now. But that's good. It sounds like you had fun. I enjoy rhythm games. I really love the anime for this book. Yeah, the movie was quite whimsical, and so I wanted to give the book a chance. I don't see many people doing full book reading, so I decided I would give it a shot. But yes. Welcome everyone. We are currently still in chapter 1. We barely started. Very based for this. Thank you. We're currently on page 9. We are not very far in. We just started. For those who have just arrived, this is Penguin Highway by Tomihiko Morimi. And it is a cute little tale of a boy that thinks he's oh so smart, discovering and trying to investigate something that he's never really seen before, that being penguins that mysteriously appear in his suburban town. Also, he thinks the dentist is a pretty lady. And he wants to be someone great someday, so he's a little bit of a cocky brat. Sorry, I'm like sniffing into the mic. I'm not trying to. My allergies are just kind of going after me. The coffee's helping though, the warmth. The little simping boy genius. He is such a good boy, yes. I only just joined as this book about penguins. Somewhat, yeah. Stop sniffing us, that's our job. Alright. I'll stop sniffing and I'll continue reading instead. On the way home from school, I stopped at the dentist. The reason I go to the dentist a lot is because my brain is extremely powerful. My brain consumes a lot of energy, and sugar is the main source of the brain's energy. That's why I'm always eating too many sweets. Of course, I should make a point of brushing my teeth properly before bed, but my brain is so powerful that when evening comes, I get too sleepy to hold a toothbrush and don't have the time to stop and brush my teeth. But I don't mind going to see the dentist. I really like it there. The dentist's waiting room is always extremely quiet and it smells of medicine. There's a silver mobile of fish shapes hanging from the ceiling. There are artificial potted plants by the window swaying in the draft coming from the air conditioner. The white couch is cold to the touch, and the white floors are... I can't get the page. And the white floors are sparkling clean. There's a transparent magazine rack with lots of big magazines with beautiful photographs. I always imagined spaceship terminals would be just like this. There was one other patient in the dentist's waiting room listening to the whir of equipment from the the examination room. Oopsies, sorry, I have dark thoughts on the brain as usual. It was Suzuki. He looked surprised to see me, but quickly recovered. Like I always did, I took a magazine from the rack, spread it out on the glass table, and started reading. Suzuki had the loudest voice in our class and was very strong. The boys under his command obeyed him without question. The structure was fascinating, and I had been studying it, recording notes I called Observations of the Suzuki Empire. Suzuki was sometimes mean to Ichida or the other boys, stuffing rags in their desks, getting in their way when they tried to go to the bathroom, ordering his minions to give them the silent treatment, or scribbling all over their notebooks. It seemed like that was Suzuki's idea of fun, but I thought he was wrong about that. In my opinion, inconveniencing others for your benefit requires a good reason and appropriate countermeasures. Suzuki had no justification, though, and never bothered taking any countermeasures. I shut the magazine with a snap, and Suzuki jumped. "Suzuki," I said. This seemed to surprise him even more. He frowned. "What?" "You've got it too. I can tell by looking at you." "Got what?" "Stains law syndrome. Your teeth get full of germs, and the only cure is to have them all pulled." "What?" "Never heard of it." "Oh, you didn't know? I already had all mine pulled. If they pull them all at once, he won't be able to eat, and you'll die. So they pull a few each week. Then they replace the ones they pull with artificial teeth. I'm pretty sure you've got the same thing." "I don't have that," he fumed, getting mad. "I only had a filling fall out. My mom said so." "That's just what mothers tell you to make you relax. I mean, if they said you were going to have all your teeth pulled, most kids would be too scared to go to the dentist. But I think you have the right to know what they're about to do to you." "Seriously?" "The only way to stop the disease from progressing is to pull every last tooth. If the germs get past your gums and into your body, your face will puff up like manju. You'll get a high fever, and bitter-tasting things like enoki mushrooms will sprout from the gaps between your teeth. Nobody will be able to recognize you. You'll suffer and then die. It's a rare disease from Europe, and the government's in a panic about it spreading. You must have seen it in the papers." "I don't read any newspapers." "I definitely recommend asking the dentist to pull all your teeth fast. It's better than having mushrooms grow out of your mouth, right? If you can put up with the pain for a month or so, it's easy." By the time the receptionist called Suzuki's name, Emperor Suzuki I's face was frozen stiff. He went off to the examination room, and a little while after that, the lady came out. Before the door closed, I could hear Suzuki crying softly. I kept reading my magazine, and the lady sat down next to me. She smelled good. "Hey now, kiddo," she said, taking the magazine from me. "Why would you say something like that?" "Something like what?" "You little liar. You fed Suzuki quite a story. Poor thing." "Poor thing? You should be feeling sorry for Uchida." "Who in the world is Uchida?" "I'm not telling. This is between me and him." "Oh, you're evil. You've even learned to deflect." Shaking her head, she flopped down on the couch, muttering, "Such a snot," and began flipping through the magazine on her lap. "Hey," the receptionist prompted. "Hold on," she said, not looking up from the page. "I'm busy teaching this one a lesson." But she just kept reading the magazine. I put my hands on my knees, sitting upright. I glanced sideways at her. She was nodding to herself, making noises of agreement, just like she always did when I found her reading at Seaside Cafe. Like she'd completely forgotten I was there. The clock's ticking was very loud. The receptionist looked worried. I started to wonder if the dentist was going to come out and yell at her for slacking off at work. "Maybe it wasn't very grown-up of me," I admitted. "Well, you aren't a grown-up," the lady said, not looking up. "So do what you want." "Suzuki does mean things to him, but Uchida didn't ask me to get revenge for him. So I don't think I have the right to pay Suzuki back in Uchida's place. I should have at least discussed it with Uchida before doing anything." "You always make everything look so complicated." "Oh, there it is. See? Look. Right here." The page she was staring at was a photo of a rock completely covered in penguins. She snorted. "Penguins are a total mystery. I don't get it," she said. It occurred to me to talk to her about the penguin incident that morning. After all, it had happened in the empty lot right next to the dentist. But she said, "I like penguins. I like blue whales and platypuses too." So without thinking, I said, This is a scientific word, guys. I'm gonna have to sound this out very slowly. Ornithorhynchus animatus, right? What? She asked, confused. Platypuses. What about them? The scientific name is Ornithorhynchus anatinus. I saw it in a book. Huh, who knew? But that fact is completely meaningless before their bizarre cuteness. True enough. I'd better take this with me, she announced, and she tore the page right out of the magazine. She looked down at what was now her photo. They're kind of like you, she observed. Tiny, but with attitude. By the time they were done with my teeth, the sun was starting to set, and the town had turned gold. I left the dentist and went to the vacant lot next door. I wanted to investigate the penguin emergence grounds once more. The savanna-like grass was still swaying in the wind, but there wasn't a single penguin left. The grown-ups must have put them on a truck and taken them away somewhere. The vacant lot felt even emptier than before. I went to the middle of the lot and looked up at the sky, feeling like a pebble rolling around a vast open plain. But that was only a metaphor. Even I can't imagine a pebble's emotional state. The blue of the sky looked as if someone was mixing cream into it. I'd seen similar skies in the planetarium at the Space and Science Museum. There was a vapor trail slicing across the dome-like expanse and a small passenger plane at the fore of it. As I watched, the plane traced a smooth arc across the sky, slowly expanding its trail. Watching the little silver fleck slowly drawing a line across the sky was fascinating. So I stood there, gazing up for quite a long time, until my neck started hurting. Every time I see a vapor trail, I can't help but stare. Uchiha and I had agreed we'd go to see a space shuttle launch someday, but I felt that if I saw something that amazing, my neck might never go back to its original position. I wondered what the penguins were doing now. Why had they suddenly come here? I definitely had to investigate this matter further. I locked my hands together behind me like Sherlock Holmes and began pacing around the ground. I could see the windows of the dentist's office across the lot. The lady's face appeared in one, grinning at me. She mouthed snot at me. She was definitely underestimating me on account of my age. She didn't know how much work I put in every day to improve my mind. She'll soon see me, I muttered. The cool breeze brushing across the grass carried the scent of curry from some nearby kitchen. Maybe it was even coming from my own family's kitchen. I felt like I could see my mother standing at the back door waving. I suddenly felt hungry. And even a bit sleepy. I asked my mother over dinner, and she confirmed that a truck had come and taken the penguins away. I imagined them all lining up and filing into the truck. Mommy, where'd the penguins come from? My sister asked. I really don't know, my mother said unhurriedly. She was never one to rush anything. Maybe someone abandoned them there. You know how people abandon pets sometimes. Poor abandoned penguins. My sister could be nice sometimes. And with that, the day ended. But the penguin incident was far from over. Hello! Hi, everyone. Hi, Kai. Thank you for the raid. Hello, hello. For those of you that are not aware of me, I am Blaze Shinryu of AN Project's 2nd generation. Tonight is a bit cozy stream, but we do usually get quite a bit more, I don't know what's to say, chaotic around here, I guess. Thank you for the raid once more. Hello, everybody. I am currently reading Penguin Highway by Tomihiko Morimi. It is quite the cute movie, but it's also a very enjoyable book so far, at least I'd say so myself. Tomboy supremacy. Yes, tomboy supremacy, for sure. How fun. While I say hi to you guys, I suppose I will take this chance to take a few sips of water. How was your stream, Kai? Did you enjoy what you were doing? What did you guys do over there? Oh. Were you guys having a good time? Very fun, very unnerving, watching the funny dragon play Dredge. Ooh. I've actually never played that before. Hello, I was playing Dredge and freaking out because I'm a scaredy cat. I feel that. I also cannot really play horror games. I'm not too good with them. I try to be, but alas, I may wield a weapon, but I'm wholly unprepared for the horrors of modern horror games. I can sometimes handle things, it really just depends. There's nothing in the water. Kai, stop going crazy. Just go fish at night. I also do not trust, like, open water in video games. Even if it's not a horror game. I just don't trust it. When I first played Minecraft, I was convinced that there was, like, some kind of giant ocean mob, like, similar to the Ender Dragon, like, just lurking in the depths, and I would refuse to go, like, deep into the water. In Minecraft, of all things. I had to look it up eventually to be like, is there anything in the Minecraft water? And the internet was like, no, you're a scaredy cat. It's a super normal fish game. Oh boy. Yeah, if that game is all about like going into deep water, you could never pay me enough to do that. There's no way. I think I'd sooner jump out of an airplane than play that game. Not gonna lie. Not going to lie. Well, thank you to everyone who's joined. I'll kind of update you guys just a bit on what's happened so far. We have not even passed the first chapter. We're actually only on like the 15th page. In this book, we are following the point of view of a bit of a snot-nosed 10-year-old boy. I believe he's 10, is what he said. And he likes to take a lot of notes. He believes he's going to be a very important person someday. And he thinks the lady at the dentist office is pretty. And all of a sudden one day, despite living in a landlocked location, there are penguins that he and his school friends run across while heading to school, and he goes, "What? How did penguins get here?" And yeah, we are following the mysterious journey of a boy that has witnessed the mysterious summoning of penguins, so to say. Ugh, I don't know if you guys just heard my, if you just heard my back crack. Obviously, by the way of the Penguin Highway. Obviously. That must be. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. But yes. Those of you that mayhaps have been scared before, I invite you to grab something warm to drink or just cuddle up and maybe listen along. I'm trying to be as cozy and kind and sweet as possible. Some mild voice acting and a few stutters on some big words, but we're having a good time. So thank you for joining, and I hope to soothe any nerves that you guys might have gotten from playing a horror game. I promise this is not a horror book. This is not a horror book. Alright. Here we go. The next day, we learned that the penguins had vanished from the truck that had been transporting them. When it arrived at its destination, the staff opened the back and found not a single penguin inside. There was an extremely curious turn of events. Curious enough that it made the papers. I cut out the article and pasted it in my notebook. And astonishingly, the penguins reappeared in town. According to my records, penguins were spotted on both Wednesday and Friday of that week alone. The Wednesday incident occurred at noon. A line of penguins had come walking out of Kamanohashi Park and were struck by a car while crossing the highway. The penguins were flung away, rolling across the asphalt, but then stood up and ran off as nothing had happened. It was clear these penguins were incredibly tough. The Friday incident occurred in the morning. A bunch of penguins entered Yoshida's yard on the same block as the dentist's office. Their dog started barking, though, and the penguins ran away. Yoshida's dog had bitten one of them, but then started whining. It was his first time biting a penguin, so it must have been surprised. On my way home from school, I checked the locations of the penguin sightings several times and looked up information about penguins at the library, but I didn't find any useful clues. The mystery only deepened. Saturday started out busy. Preoccupied with a loose tooth, I sat up at my desk trying to collate my research. This involved lining up the notes I'd taken so far on my desk, indexing the entries, and rereading them. Anything that struck me as important, I cleaned up and wrote down in a new section of notes. This was my research process. This approach allowed me to make all sorts of discoveries. I had lots of similar indexes. The Suzuki Empire, Project Amazon, The Lady, Selfish Sister Summaries, etc. That day, I went through my notes, making a new index. I called it Penguin Highway. This was a collection of my notes related to the penguins. I had read in a book that penguins always follow a specific route from the water to the land, and these routes are called penguin highways. I liked that turn of phrase, so I decided to call my research into the appearances Penguin Highway Research. In the afternoon, I worked on a space station I was making out of Legos. Then I studied chess for a while. I had promised to play chess with the lady from the dentist's office at Seaside Cafe that evening. She liked to joke around a lot, but deep down, she was a hard worker with a lot of potential. After she finished working on Saturday, she always spent the rest of the day studying. I wasn't sure what she was studying, but she would sit in the cafe window all night, taking notes and reading books. While she did this, she would narrow her eyes as if the light was too bright, furrow her brow, and often nod to herself. When I left for Seaside Cafe, the lady was almost done with her studying. I walked through the neighborhood to the main road, and as I got closer to the brightly lit Seaside Cafe, I saw her sitting in her usual seat. For some reason, this made me extremely happy. I spent exactly 1 hour learning chess from her. A girl in my class, Hanamoto, was working hard to make chess popular. I'd never played chess with Hanamoto, but had been fond of it for some time. I liked the way the pieces lined up perfectly in their squares. I liked picking up the castles and horses and moving them around, and I liked talking to the lady as we played. I told her all of the things I'd written in my notes. She was impressed sometimes, but odds were much higher. She'd just say, and keep glaring at the board. Sometimes that elevated to a, It was extremely rare to elicit a, wow. That day, she was wearing a thin sweater the color of fava beans. I took my eyes off the board and looked at her breasts, admiring the way they rose from her chest like two hills. Come on, kiddo. Eyes on the chessboard. They are. They aren't. They are. You're just looking at my boobs. Am not. Are you looking, or aren't you? I am, and I'm not. I'm seriously worried about your future. She won the first chess game, and I won the second. We're evenly matched, she said. I lectured her on penguins. There were lots of types of penguins. Emperor penguins, Gentoo penguins, etc. I told her about the rookeries they form to warm their eggs, about the penguin highways. The lady said, She knew about the penguin incidents. Truth is stranger than fiction, she said, laughing. What's your theory? Where do you think they came from? I need more information. I think aliens brought them. I can't deny the possibility, but I see no reason for them to bother doing that. Invasion! What else? Penguins are adorable, right? They can lure Earthlings in, make us let our guard down, and then, poof! They've toppled governments. I see. A viable hypothesis. She shot me a frightening look.
Don't mock me. I'll pull your teeth out.
If only I could slow down the workings of my brain so I could stay up later. Unfortunately, by 8, I was always really sleepy. The chess pieces were getting blurry. I started nodding off and the lady said,
Yo, you getting sleepy?
Am not.
Again with the lies.
I use my brain a lot, so I get sleepy easily.
I'm jealous. I often can't fall asleep.
What's it like being up in the middle of the night?
Everything gets this really mystical vibe. Well, it's nothing kids need to know about.
The lady started putting the chess pieces away, which made me very sad. I wasn't sure why, but I often got very sad when I got sleepy.
You'd better get home. They're late coming to fetch you, huh?
I'm still fine. I'm awake.
Sleep does the body good. Go to bed, kiddo.
She nodded to herself.
Sleep well and grow up fast.
Soon, the door rattled open and my father came to get me. It was dangerous to walk home alone in the dark, so I'd promised to always wait until he came to pick me up. The sound of the door sliding open made me hit peak sadness and peak sleepiness. There was no getting around it either. My father bowed his head to my chessmate, and she smiled back. She always acted much more grown-up when interacting with him. Hope he wasn't too much trouble, my father said.
Not at all. It was my pleasure. Aoyama's a bright boy.
See? I said. The lady said goodnight, and my father and I walked home through the darkness. I was so sleepy. I forgot to brush my teeth that evening. How wretched. I really need to be able to manage myself better. When would I be grown up enough to handle this sleepiness? Would I ever learn how to brush my teeth diligently so I could become a proper adult with shiny white, permanent teeth? On Sunday, I woke at 8 and went to buy breakfast from the bakery at Seaside Cafe. It was a very beautiful day, and the bright morning sun shone through the Zelkovas. My father brought 4 pastries and a large baguette. It was my job to carry the loaf of French bread, feeling the warmth of it through the paper bag. We left the top of the bag open so the baguette wouldn't get soggy. It smelled amazing. We walked past the row of trees, and I thought about how the lady was probably at church now. The lady went to the small church next to Kamanohashi Park. I'd been inside it once myself. Back at the house, my parents got breakfast ready while I went to wake up my sister. If we left her to her own devices, she would never wake up, no matter what. Like she was still a baby. But whenever I tried to make her get up, she was always really selfish and wouldn't get out of bed. She really baffles me sometimes, but I know she doesn't mean to. After breakfast, my father said he had work to do, so he went off to Seaside Cafe. When he did this, he always took his grid-lined notebook and fountain pen and lots of documents all stuffed into a transparent briefcase. Someday, I want to own a transparent briefcase filled with my own research and go to all kinds of places to study it. I holed up in the second-story laboratory, my room, and continued to work on my space station. I had studied photographs of the real space station and was building one that looked just like it. I only had a finite amount of bricks, though, which caused me no end of grief. I needed a lot more white ones. While I was desperately searching through the bricks, a warm breeze came through the window, and I heard my sister's and my mother's voices as they worked in the garden. After the 3 of us ate lunch, Uchida came over. We'd agreed to go exploring that day. Like I always did when I went exploring, I had my rucksack with me. It had lined notebooks, a compass, a small blanket, a folding umbrella, a thermos my mother filled with tea and sugar, and emergency provisions. The emergency provisions had been brought back from America by my father on one of his trips. A small amount of beef jerky. Very tasty and extremely nutritious. But no matter how tasty it was, you could only eat the emergency provisions in real emergencies. This was the tragic nature of emergency provisions. Be careful, my mother and sister said as we left. Our expedition team set off through the neighborhood. The Sunday afternoon streets were very quiet and the sunlight was warm. A cat stepped out from a hedge and stopped to watch us. As we walked, we talked about outer space. Uchida told me about the birth of the universe, cosmic inflation, black holes, and things like that. I talked about the space shuttle, and the space station, and the space elevator. I liked the water tower on the hill because it looked like an escape pod for leaving the planet. When I started talking about exploring distant stars in a spaceship, Uchida expressed concern that our spaceship would fall into a black hole. He thought about black holes a lot. When the water runs out of the bath, it's like a black hole. Scary, huh? He said. Uchida was very interesting. The hill with the large water tower on top of it was to the east of the neighborhood. The area around the hill was all forest and not yet marked for development. The forest was filled with little paths, and there was no telling where they would take you. One of our key missions was to make a map of these trails. We went up to the concrete stairs to the water tower. It was a giant round tank surrounded by a tall fence. There were no trespassing signs plastered everywhere with pictures of drowning children on them. These were always a little alarming. The deep forest spread out beyond the water tower. Each time the warm breeze swept over the hill, the forest moved. If a really strong gust hit it, the whole forest would rustle. Uchida said he wanted to take a photo of the water tower, so we elected to pursue individual investigations. Uchida moved around looking for a good angle. I began taking notes on the view of town from the hill. In the distance were the mountains that marked the edge of the prefecture. There were little green not little, sorry. That was not a word. I chose that word for myself. There were green hills all over the place. The roofs on the tight rows of houses sparkled in the sunlight. Against the side of the hill was an apartment building that looked like a shortcake. I could see the pointy steeple of the church where the lady prayed. The eye was naturally drawn to the giant shopping mall. The highway ran through all of this like it was stitched across the neighborhood, and the lights moving along it were cars. From on top of this hill, I could see trees in town and far-off hills all swaying in the breeze. The sound of it didn't travel this far, but I could clearly see the wind's progress through the entire town. I wrote all this down in my notes. At last, Uchida came and sat next to me. We drank some tea. There were lots of hills in this area, like a lot of green breasts rising up under the blue sky. I wiggled my loose tooth, thinking about breasts. Lately, I developed the opinion that breasts were one of life's great mysteries. I often found myself thinking about the lady's breasts, but why were hers different from my mother's? They were the same physical object, so why was the effect they had on me so drastically different? I never accidentally found myself staring at my mother's breasts, but I often caught myself doing just that with the ladies. I felt like I could never get tired of looking at them. I wondered what it would be like to touch them. The more I thought about it, the more baffling these feelings were. Was this what it meant to observe yourself? I talked about all of this with Uchiha. Uchiha, not Sasuke. Uchida. There we go. I talked about all this with Uchida. What do you think, Uchida? I don't know anything, he said, staring up at the water tower. His ears had turned red. Our rest ended there, and we stood up to go explore. But then we heard a from somewhere, different from the sound of the wind in the forest. We looked around, wondering what it was, and saw a bunch of penguins walking along one of the paths out of the woods. Yeah! Uchida choked. A very strange noise. Hello! Thank you for the raid, Miri. Welcome, welcome. You came into that weird little noise. Just some casual voice acting. Welcome, everyone. Hello, hello. Howdy doody. How's it going? That was a good noise. Thank you, thank you. Hi, everybody. This stream is not going to be going on for much longer, probably only 5 minutes, but I'm going to be finishing up a little bit more of Penguin Highway by Tomihiko Morimi. It is about a little bit of a bratty little kid that thinks he knows everything and really wants to study the world, realizing somehow, some way, in his landlocked little town, penguins have started to appear randomly. And he does not know how the penguins got there, and they also seem to vanish into thin air whenever someone tries to take the penguins somewhere else. So it's, yeah. It's an interesting, fun little book. A little mystery. A fun little mystery. My, how time flies when you're enjoying a good book. Yes, it definitely did. I do wish I could read more, but I have quite a bit of work to do. That is why today's stream is shorter, for those of you that were unaware, who might not have come in at the beginning when I said it. Today's stream will be ending in probably about 5 minutes, because I'm going to be working on a personal project, and I'd like to allow myself a good amount of time on it. I've been sitting here for half an hour. Well, thank you for sticking around, and thank you to everyone that has just come in. I am now going to continue for just a little bit longer. The trails in the forest behind the water tower were covered in penguins. Some were running about, wings flapping behind them. Others were sunning themselves in the light drifting through the trees. Uchida and I traced the penguin highway backwards. I was getting quite excited. I thought we had a chance of solving the mystery of where all these penguins came from. Our exploration's goal had suddenly become investigating the penguin highway. We walked on, forgetting all about the wind whipping through the trees, about our map, about the water tower, and about breasts. 7, 8, Uchida yelled. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13! I yelled back. The number of penguins soon passed 20. We moved faster and faster until we were almost running. We found a place where the path narrowed, and here there were a bunch of penguins, all stuffed together like they were playing Oshikura Manju, that game where everyone stands back to back in a circle trying to squish each other. At this point, we gave up counting them. When Uchida and I came running, the penguins scattered, opening a path for us. From then on, there were far fewer penguins. We'd been assuming the penguins' rookery was deep in the forest, and they were entering town from there, but there was no sign of it. The path we were following suddenly turned and passed behind the nets of the athletic field. The field on the other side of the green nets was deserted. There was a single penguin leaning against a tree, taking a nap, but it was all alone. Maybe this is the wrong way? Uchida suggested. We persevered, passing along the back of the field. It was very quiet here. Inside the grove, we found the remains of a small truck. How it got there? I have no idea. At last, we came out in a flat clearing covered in thick grass. High-tension towers loomed over us, reaching for the sky. The forest deposited on us on the east of the field. The forest deposited us on the east side of the field. There we go. We pushed through the grass, heading north, and found a diagonal slope made of concrete. There was a long staircase leading down. At the bottom was a 2-lane road, and beyond that was a lot for buses to turn around. This was the last step on the bus line, and the edge of our neighborhood. There were no penguins around. We gaped across the field, stunned. We felt faintly silly for having chased the penguins like this. A cluster of clouds drifted across the sun and suddenly grew much darker. Uchida and I stood next to one of the towers, discussing our next move. Where'd the penguins come from? Uchida asked, staring up at the tower. I looked back at the forest. Maybe we stepped off the penguin highway somewhere. They might have come from somewhere deeper in the forest. We laid our half-drawn map down on the grass and discussed possible penguin origins. We were so focused on this that we didn't notice Suzuki and his 2 minions until they had us surrounded. Uchida heard footsteps, glanced up, and immediately looked ready to cry. Suzuki came toward us, grinning. Ugh, Uchida's here, he said, disgusted. Saying nothing, Uchida just started backing away. Suzuki glared at me. As for you, he said, grabbing my shoulder. He was roughly the same height as me, but a little fatter. You're a liar. I ought to kill you. A liar? When did I lie? That crap at the dentist. You mean when you started crying at the dentist's office? Shut up! Suzuki turned beet red and punched me in the shoulder. You're a liar. Drop dead. I'm gonna kill you. I staggered a little, but managed to hold my ground. Do you really hate me enough to kill me? I really don't think killing me will do you any good. I won't be easy to kill. Before you manage it, I'll definitely be able to gouge your eyes out or bite your ears off. I bet that would really hurt. And then you'd be arrested. Your parents would cry a lot.
If you hate me so much that you're willing to lose your eyes and ears and go to prison, then I guess you'll leave me with no choice. It's a shame, but I'll just have to fight back.
This seemed to stun Suzuki a little. Shut up, he spat after a pause. You sure talk a lot of crap.
I'm just trying to help you understand.
Shut up.
But I definitely did you wrong the other day, so I apologize. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have done that to Uchida either.
I bowed my head. Uchida looked startled. What? He asked.
At the dentist, I tried to pay Suzuki back for a few things. He didn't ask me to, but I tried to get back at him for you anyway, without getting permission from you to act on your behalf, though it wasn't appropriate for me to do anything to Suzuki. It wasn't fair. I should have asked you first, informed Suzuki of that fact, and then gone for payback.
You've kinda lost me, Uchida said. Suzuki growled, "Shut up!" One more time, but then he started grinning. He had one of his minions hand him a long piece of rope. "I've got just the punishment in mind for you two," he announced. Uchida grabbed my arm. "No," I said. "We're busy." Suzuki's grin suddenly gave way to a much scarier expression. He jumped toward me. Uchida shrieked and ran away. I tried to run, but Suzuki grabbed my hair. "Hey, Suzuki, that hurts!" I shouted. Suzuki was yelling, "You little..." If my follicles were ruined and my hair didn't grow back, it would be Suzuki's fault. I grabbed Suzuki's crotch and squeezed, urging him to let go of my hair, and he squealed. I let go and shoved him back. He rolled across the grass, yelling, "Damn it! Kill him! Kill him! Uchida!" I yelled. I shouldered my rucksack, grabbed the map, and ran north across the plain. "Let's run! Retreat!" We ran down the long, exposed concrete stairs. Normally, we'd have gotten away clean, but I stepped on an empty Coke can at the bottom of the stairs and tripped. Suzuki and his cronies piled on top of me. "You're heavy!" I complained. Uchida ran off down the deserted road really fast. At least he got away. The one bright side to this. They hauled me across the road to the bus terminal. It wasn't much of a terminal. It was about as big as the park where we congregated on the way to school. There was a single, flimsy, covered waiting area in front of a vending machine selling soft drinks. Suzuki brought the rope and tied me to the vending machine, arms at my side. This was one of the Suzuki Empire's famous punishment, and boys were often found tied to one thing or another. Suzuki also squeezed my crotch once as payback for earlier, so I grunted. Then, he ordered his minions to dump my rucksack out on the road. The thermos full of sweet tea was thrown into the forest behind us, behind the bus terminal. Suzuki shoved the map Uchida and I had made into his pocket. Then, he put my notebook on the ground, and each of them pissed on it in turn. The notebook was ruined. "Serves you right." Suzuki gloated, and the Emperor of the Suzuki Empire went away. I waited patiently, trussed to the vending machine. Suzuki's lackey Kobayashi had done a very good job tying me up, and I was stuck standing at attention. His skills were impressive. The sunlight streaming down on the bus terminal was beautiful, but there was nobody there. On a Sunday afternoon, it could be a while before a bus came through. I listened to the sound of the wind and resolved to do what I could while I waited for someone to come and rescue me. I managed to move enough to get a hand in my pocket. I had a special tiny notebook there and a tiny ballpoint pen my father had bought me. I'd practiced for this eventuality, and I could now take notes with the notebook still in my pocket. I glanced over the notebook on the asphalt. Drenched in the Empire's piss, it gleamed in the afternoon sunlight. Relying on my memory, I began transcribing the contents of that notebook, copying it. I looked up at the sky, listening to the soft song of a lark. A warm, gentle breeze ruffled my hair. It was a really beautiful afternoon. With nothing else to do, I became preoccupied with wiggling my loose tooth. It was slightly out of place to begin with, so I started pushing it around with my tongue. The sky was so blue, and here I was all alone, wiggling a loose tooth. Oops, I forgot to read the rest of that sentence. Wiggling my loose tooth. climbing the stairs to adulthood. That notion struck me as poetic, so I wrote it down. I'd like to write poetry someday. Maybe I had a hidden talent for it. I tried singing for a while, hoping this would help me forget the loose tooth. I couldn't think of any other songs offhand, so I was singing Jingle Bells, totally out of season. La la la, I sang. La la la. I heard someone laughing. I hadn't noticed it all, but somebody was sitting in the waiting vestibule next to the vending machine. I recognized her by her laugh alone. A minute later, the lady stepped out. She was wearing blue clothes that looked like they'd been cut out of the heavens. She had a purse with her. She seemed sleepy, but was smiling. Her hair was a little moussed. She came out into the sunlight, almost stepped on my notebook, yelped, and jumped sideways. Then she pretended she'd only just seen me there.
What are you doing, kiddo?
Pretending to be a vending machine.
Is that fun?
It hasn't been very fun. No.
You are an enigma.
She laughed.
This was Suzuki's idea of payback. After that lie, you only have yourself to blame.
If you were there the whole time, you could have rescued me.
But you didn't ask me to, right?
I admit you have a point there, I conceded. What are you doing here?
I wanted to take the bus to the station, but in the end it was too much of a pain. I took a rest at the vestibule here and nodded off. It happens.
The lady untied the rope. Free again. I inspected the damage. My rucksack had been stomped on and was crumpled, but intact. I managed to find the thermos they'd thrown in the woods, but the notebook was soaked and beyond salvation.
Don't know how they think up such nasty stuff,
the lady mused, sounding impressed.
Suzuki's kind of cute, but he can be pretty nasty.
It's because he's an emperor.
A what?
My tooth was waggling, so I stuck my fingers in my mouth.
Want me to yank that for you?
She asked. No thanks. I've decided to get it out myself.
I won't steer you wrong, I swear. Think of it as an experiment.
Oh? I do like experiments. The lady took a sewing kit out from her purse, snipped off a piece of thread, and looped it around my loose tooth. The wind caught her hair, and it smelled really good.
Now then, kiddo, I'm gonna pull on this thread. Marvel as the tooth shoots right out.
But when she tried to tug the thread, I moved with her, so the tooth didn't pop out. She wound up wandering around the bus terminal, and I followed, circling her like a satellite.
Come on, she snapped. It obviously won't work if you follow me around like that. Stand still.
I wasn't scared of having my tooth pulled. My body just moved on its own. The lady stopped in front of the red vending machine and said,
I've got an idea.
She put some change in and bought a can of Coke.
Take a look at this,
she suggested, tipping the can in my direction. Holding the string taunt, she tossed the can in the air above my head. My eyes followed the red speck across the bright blue sky, and I didn't move my head at all. This trick would hardly be enough to get my tooth out, I thought. The cylinder spun as it arced across the horizon, like a spaceship using centrifugal force to create an internal gravity. But just as the red can was about to vanish from view, something white covered it, like it had suddenly frozen. I thought. This phenomenon started from the law in Coca-Cola and spread up the side of the can like a tsunami crossing the ocean. The white part seemed to foam and then turn black. The whole thing swelled as if it had taken a deep breath. 2 black wings seemed to erupt off the sides. At this stage, the Coke had turned into a black and white, unidentified flying can, quite large. It continued to expand, still spinning as it began to lose altitude. Its tip stretched out, transforming into a beak, and, flapping its wings, it landed in the middle of the bus terminal, rolling across the ground. When the Coke can righted itself, it was no longer a Coke can. Awkwardly flailing 2 black wings, the former Coke can waddled a few steps before stopping and staring up at the sky as if asking, "Where am I?" I had witnessed the birth of a penguin. I stared at the penguin a little while longer until I tasted blood in my mouth. I turned back to the lady. She was standing in front of the vending machine, drinking from another can of Coke, and holding my tooth between her fingers.
"See? It popped right out,"
she said. I spat some bloody saliva onto the asphalt. She bought me some mineral water, so I swigged at that a little at a time, washing the blood out of my mouth. What was that? I asked.
A penguin, obviously,
the lady declared. She plopped the freed tooth in my palm and walked over to the penguin while sipping her Coke. The penguin waddled toward her, almost tackling her legs, then wandered around them. There was a gust of wind and the lady put her hand on her forehead, as if warding off the sunlight.
I'm an enigma too,
she said.
See if you can figure this mystery out.
Think you can do it? And that is where we will stop for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this little segment that we got to read out of Penguin Highway. Yes, unfortunately, today... That's a water bottle. I thought that was my mug. I just dropped a water bottle on the floor. Thank God. But yes. I sincerely hope that you guys enjoyed this. You know, I won't do this type of thing too often, but I enjoyed this little bit of reading. Now, let's find someone to raid. I'm going to turn off this music. And I'll turn back on this one. Alright. Let's find somebody. Wait, I skipped a page? What page did I skip? Oh no. What page did I skip? The pages are kind of stuck together because it's like a book that I haven't really like... my pages tend to stick together because I keep them in very good condition. Before the dentist? Like where before the dentist? Like before the lady, like before he went to the dentist office? Is that what you mean? Yeah, what's the page number? Can you give me the page number? What page number would it be? Maybe if it's before he went to the dentist office. I don't know which one I missed. Oh, okay, you are correct. I did. It was, I think I skipped page 6. Wait. I think it was page 7. Yeah, I think I know. Wait. I don't know. Okay, I think I know what it was. Yeah, okay, I skipped 7. I picked like 7 basically. I skipped 7. We didn't miss anything very important. The only thing that was mentioned on this page, basically, it was just, they went to school, everyone at school was talking about the penguins. Our main character was drawing in his notebook the penguins. Suzuki was like, you like drawing penguins? That's lame. And then our main character spent the entire day thinking about penguins. He didn't know where they came from. He came up with 6 possible manifestations. The teacher was confused. Yeah. He talks about Suzuki's anger about the penguins going away. Suzuki's anger about the penguins. And then... yeah, just Hanamoto was playing chess in the corner with some other kids. She spent time trying to get people interested in chess. He talks about how him and Uchida are basically the only members of the Explorers Club. And, they had to do a presentation for social studies. So that's why they formed the club. And then he just talks about how he has to go to the dentist. Because... yeah, and then, yeah, I skipped, like, that little tiny little cutscene, basically, just, like, where the kids were like, penguins, 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 and Suzuki was being mean. And we technically got an introduction to Uchida. Yeah. That's about it. We didn't miss anything too important. But yes. We are going to go raid now, and I'm going to give you guys a choice of who you would like to raid. Would you like to raid Nebi Nebu? She's doing a 48-hour donathon. We can raid Sheena. She is playing... one second. It's a really small little thing, so I can't actually tell what she's doing. Warhammer, it looks like. Yeah, she's playing Warhammer. Then there's Connie, who's playing the Coffin of Andy and Lele. Cherry is playing Sekiro, and Nova is playing Master Duel. Who would you guys prefer to go to? None of these are really like that comfy, so it's not like I can't really like match a theme. It's a little difficult to match the theme here. I'm seeing some for Cherry, some for Nebi, Connie. Master Duel is pretty laid back. I mean, if Nova just started, Nebi, you're Connie. Let me make a quick little poll. I'll make a quick little poll, okay? Nebi, Connie, Cherry. Who else did I say? Connie, Cherry, Sheena. Right? Yeah, Sheena. Alright, there we go. I forgot to ask a question, but go ahead and vote on that for a few minutes. Oh, and Nova. Shit. I can't put another person on there. I can only put 4. We'll pick the if you want to raid Nova, then do not vote on this. I'll put Nova against whoever is like the top one, and then we can pick between the two. And that's how I'll do it, to try to be as fair as I can. It'd be hilarious if you could update them in real time. Yeah, probably. I'm gonna move my mic back a little bit now. Alright. Looks like Connie. So I'm just gonna call it on Connie. So now it will be a poll. Connie or Nova? Who should we raid? I'll give it a little bit to sort itself out. But yeah, I guess while we're sorting that out, I'll read the page that I technically forgot by accident in the book, okay? We'll do that real quick. The morning classroom was filled with the chatter about the penguins in town. I was staring at the penguin notes I'd made, and the kids who'd almost never talked to me came over, begging to let them see. Everyone who'd seen the penguins on their way to school was benefiting from their status as a witness to the astonishing phenomenon. Everyone was making such a fuss about it that Suzuki, who'd missed out on seeing them, got angry. Suzuki started talking about seeing penguins at the zoo, insisting there was nothing special about them. What we found special wasn't the penguin themselves, but their presence in a vacant lot in the middle of town. So I didn't think he had a point. But when he got mad, everyone got scared and the class settled down. Suzuki took a look at my notebook and snorted. You like drawing that stuff? He wanted to see them too, I said. I've seen them before, he insisted. I don't care. Hanamoto joined us. You don't? She asked. Suzuki stuck to his guns but seemed less sure of himself. Hanamoto was always very confident, and even Suzuki was reluctant to mess with her. She looked at my notes and said, Interesting. Penguins sure are cute. Hanamoto's skin was really fair, and since her hair was a light chestnut color, she looked like she'd moved here from somewhere in Europe. We'd only been in the same class since April, so I'd barely spoken to her. It was extremely rare for her to come over and look at my notes. The penguin sightings were simply that astonishing. I spent the entire day thinking about penguins. Where did they come from? That was the problem. During class, I considered 6 possible hypotheses for the penguin's manifestation. As I was scribbling with my ballpoint pen, the teacher came over, looked at my notes, and smiled. I don't think it was obvious that I was writing what I was writing. I was using a shorthand I'd invented myself. By the afternoon, Suzuki's anger had diminished the penguin fever considerably. Hanamoto was playing chess in the corner with some other kids. She spent a lot of time trying to get people interested in chess. Suzuki was making a ruckus in the back with Kobayashi and Nagasaki. While I was reading over my penguin manifestation hypothesis, Uchida came over. Uchida was someone I hadn't been in class with until this spring. The two of us had formed an explorers club. The club's charter was to explore the town and map its secrets. We'd had to do a presentation like that for social studies, and liked it so much we decided it was our mission. Want to check out the water tower on the hill after school? Uchida asked. Not today, I said. I've got to go to the dentist right after school, but my schedule's open in the afternoon this Sunday. So, let's do things properly then. Sounds good. Uchida drifted back to his own desk. I wasn't sure if Uchida was interested in the penguins or not. He could be very quiet sometimes. Whenever I had a conversation with him, I always felt like I was talking too much. I constantly made up my mind to try to talk less, but then got carried away and forgot. I just couldn't stop myself. I think important people ought to know how to hold their tongues. And that's all that we missed, because then it goes into, on the way home from school, I stopped at the dentist. And yeah, that's where that was. So that was right before the dentist's office. Alright, our poll is basically 50-50, but it looks like we are going to go to Connie. So let's go check out Connie. I'm gonna end the poll now. It was a very tight race, but we are going to go and raid Connie. Now remember everyone, be on our best behaviors. Remember, you are just ever so subtly representing me. So let's go be nice to Connie in her chat and go have some fun. Wait, where is Connie? Oh, right. Okay, there she is. She doesn't have her, like, picture in the thumbnail, so I was confused. Alright, we are going to go raid Connie, and I will see you guys tomorrow for our monetization celebration and a bit of emote drawing. Thank you for joining me tonight. I will see you guys later. Bye-bye!